Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by Durham Region. Our love of sport runs deep. He was the fastest man on planet Earth, Ben Johnson, and the woman who wrote the book, Mary Ormsby. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! We have two great guests today. Our first guest was born in Jamaica, raised in Canada, set numerous Canadian and world records. He was a Pan Am Games gold medalist, the 1984 Olympic bronze medalist, 1987 World Indoor Champion, 1987 World Outdoor Champion, 1988 Olympic 100-meter champion with a record time of 9.79 seconds. He was winner of Canada's Athlete of the Year Award, winner of the Jesse Owens Award, member of the Order of Canada, Ben Johnson. And from Toronto, she went to Ohio State University on a volleyball scholarship. She was a Buckeyes captain, part of a record 37 win season, a two-time scholar athlete. She was named to the All Big Ten team, a member of the Ohio State Sports Hall of Fame, a Toronto Star sports journalist for 4 decades, and an excellent author, as we find out. Mary Ormsby, welcome to the program. Ben, Mary, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So I want to talk, of course, about the book. Just finished reading it. Awesome book. World's Fastest Man, asterisk. The Incredible Life of Ben Johnson. Incredible book. So much I didn't know about Ben. I feel enlightened after reading this. First of all, congratulations. Now, Mary, I heard you refer to it part biography, part cold case. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Well, it's because I think a lot of people believe they know what happened in Seoul. There was an open and shut case. Ben failed a drug test and was, banned, and a lot of things happened after that. And we thought we'd had all the answers. But fast forward a couple of decades, and Ben and I were talking about Seoul and all that, and I began to ask a few more questions, like, did we miss anything back in the early days? Was there more we could have done to investigate? Just curiosity. And that led to several investigative pieces in the Toronto Star about the circumstances around his test in Seoul and his hearing. So the cold case refers to the hearing Ben had in Seoul, and was he denied or deprived of due process? I lay that out in the book. And that's what the cold case part is. If Ben had had a different kind of hearing with less deficiencies around it, might he have kept his gold medal? That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Ben, why did you think Mary was the right person to write the story?
I think that she's been around for the last 38 years, and she know my story, and she read some good articles about me over the years, and I know that she writes very well, and she was coming up for retirement, and I said to her, Mary, you should read my book. And she go, oh, I don't know, I'm retiring very soon. And I said to her, well, if you're retiring very soon, then you should have more time on your hand. so so she didn't first say yes, but she came back maybe like 5 6 months later and said, okay, let's write this book. And I said, okay, let's start.
Well, as you mentioned, 38 years. Yes, Mary was there right from the beginning. And I want to start at the beginning, Ben. Tell us about some of the challenges that you had coming to Canada as a 14-year-old.
Well, it was very tough, leaving my friends and my dad back home, and united with my mother for like 5 years. I haven't seen her, and it was nice to see her again, and united, and my sister and brothers, that we share and love each other, and grew up, in Jamaica, and then moved to Canada. So it was a different culture shock, and trying to, blend in with new friends, and with kids, and play in the park, and so forth. I didn't have much childhood of playing in the park, so a lot of stress was on me at that time to get into track and field at the early years at 14 years old. So it was very tough.
Did you know right away that track and field was going to be maybe your way to success, a road for you?
I I believe that at around 80, no, not say 80, I would say about 77, 78. I really um know my destiny was track and field at that
You could.
age, at 14, 15 years old. Yes.
So okay, so here's what I know. Your mom, you were very tight with your mother. You mentioned that, and you know, you've always included her in everything you've done all the way through your life, and you had a very special bond with her. Uh, we actually here's a look at a piece that was done on you back in the early 1980s. We have some clips. Vic, we roll that.
I'm shy. I'm quiet. I never talk about myself. I let people figure out myself.
So you didn't like to talk about yourself. You always came out off as that shy kind of humble kid. Uh, is that the Ben that you remember, Mary?
Yes, I do. He was very shy, and it wasn't an act. Modest, humble. The only time you saw, the big glamorous superstar that he became was around the time he'd be competing, and later on, of course, having the showdowns with Carl Lewis. But he was a quiet guy, and it was like pulling teeth trying to get him to, answer you in an interview situation. And Ben was often in interview situations, even away from the track. There were sort of galas and things that he would appear at, and big press conferences. And he would say maybe one sentence, and then that would be it. A lot of silence.
Yeah, Ben, I remember interviewing you after you set that world indoor record for 60 meters back in the day, and it was difficult getting you to speak. And what was it? What made it so difficult for you? Was it just the shyness, or just the fact that you were just a humble guy?
I think it was both. I think it was shy and humble. But if you ask me the right questions, I will speak. But but I think as I get older and going out more, I try to open up more and more, try to speak much and much more. So I kind of feel comfortable with myself now, speaking a lot more than I ever did, because now is my time to speak, because now the world and the Kenyan public, all the world will know the truth, what happened to Ben Johnson, and the real story behind the scenes, and not only of me winning the gold medal or running on the TV screen. Everybody can see what really went down, because most people didn't even know what the truth is, and now they can read the truth once and for all.
Right, and the book is amazing. There's a lot of great stuff in there, which we're going to get to as well. But Charlie Francis, your coach, and Jamie Astafin introduced you to steroids. You talk about that in the book in the early 1980s. Basically, they said if you want to compete with the big boys, you're going to have to do what the big boys are doing, and this is what the big boys are doing. So I'm going to say, as a 21-year-old kid, uh, maybe a chance to compete for a world championship or an Olympic medal. I guess it would be very tough to say no to that offer of here you are, a 21-year-old kid, you're a rising star in track and field, but to get to that next level, this is what you're gonna have to do. Is that how it was put to you?
Well, that's what you know. Charlie decided that everybody's cheating, everybody cheating at level, and we are trying to do it clean, and there's no way I'm going to be able to make it on that level if about it, and I have to try it out and see what happened, and then say, okay, well, let's do it. So there's no Charlie has to be blamed for this. I'm the guy who made this decision. I'm one of the guys say yes, and we were just doing what everybody else was doing. It just matters with better than than the people who were out there. You know what I mean? We winning all the gold medals, all the world records, running 9.7, 9.8, and it was just stunning. Like people seeing somebody can run that fast, and nobody can believe it. So this is what happened. A lot of jealousy, I should say.
Right. Well, I mean, you were an explosive runner, and there's no doubt about that. So, 1984 in Los Angeles. Is this where the Carl Lewis rivalry began in 1984? You earned the bronze medal in the 100 meters, one of the medals you were able to keep. And what did winning a bronze medal teach you that you were in terms of what you were capable of?
Well, after the 1984 Olympic Games, and I went home, uh, in Toronto, I sit in my basement for about the whole entire day looking on that race and see where I can improve. And the first 60 meters was good, but the last 40 meters was bad. And that's where we work on my endurance and started pushing a lot of weights more than ever and started building the muscles and strength and endurance. And even when people were resting, I was already trained already for next year. So I'm always I'm always gaining when everybody was resting for the off season. Ben was already training and ready for next year. So I keep gaining, keep improving, and everything come together in 1985.
Yeah, and then I mean, you just continuously got better. And you talk about training hard. You were a physical specimen. Clearly,
Charlie,
nobody worked harder than Ben Johnson.
Charlie only give me only 4 days off a year, and if I even take off 5 days off, he's calling my phone and say, "Where are you? You have to come practice." So it, it's like a racehorse, you know. We don't have time to do
Right,
anything, you know.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess having that guy push you like that was what you needed because I mean you're dedicated to training in the first place, but when you got somebody to push you, your times are starting to drop. You set the world indoor record for 60 meters. I, as mentioned earlier, I believe I interviewed you after that. Now, what was it like to grab that first world record? What was it like to say, you know what, I just set a world record?
I remember one time sitting in the stands in Montreal into a season, and I was very young. I was around 21 years old, and I said to Charlie, you think I could break the record next year? He smiled and grinned and said, "No, I don't think you're ready yet for the world record, but be patient. Your time will come." So I said, "Okay, I will wait. I just wait, just keep training, keep improving, and everything comes together." You know what I mean? So
For sure.
it wasn't easy. It was very hard. You know, for 12 years training, I never missed one day of practice. This is how dedication I was to my career and to the sports and what I love, and give something back to my mother.
And the big next big race, Rome, 1987, the World Championships, running alongside, of course, your now bitter rival Carl Lewis. Now you had said that you were going to run a record 9.85, but you actually went a couple of hundredths better than that, 9.83. Half a billion people watched this race uh, across the planet, and what did that win feel like for you?
Well, it was great feeling to see all the years of sacrifice and all working pays off, and all the Charlie's hard work and dedication also to get me to where I want to be, and to see us win everything together at the same time. It was a great feeling. It's like a father and a son.
Right. Yeah, he was like a surrogate father for you, wasn't he, Charlie?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So, and of course, you thumped Lewis, and that had to be great. He claimed you false started, which you, of course, you did not. Why did he have? Why did Carl Lewis have such a hard time accepting the losses to you, Ben?
I think that he was losing a lot of money, his sponsorship money and prize money, and all these coaches, staffs, and the sponsorship, like the coaches, staff, the managers, everybody was losing a lot of money. He couldn't beat me. He's saying that he's ready. He's going to beat me now, and when I beat him, he just couldn't believe it. So it was just a jealousy, a rival, uh, that you can say. And I support Carl Lewis when he won the 4 gold medal in 1984 Olympic Games. I support him all the way. I'm very happy for him, and I say my time will come. And when my time comes, no one can say anything. You
Right.
know,
He didn't. He never seemed to be too happy for you, as it seemed. And yeah, Mary, we're going to get you back in the conversation shortly. I just want to go through some of the Ben's
Okay.
great accomplishments first. So, in 1988, you almost didn't make it to Seoul. You had a hamstring injury. How bad was it? I mean, you went to St. Kitts to relax, work with Dr. Astafan. Uh, Here's a clip from the good doctor about that setback. Let's roll that one.
It was a terrible time for him. It was probably the most distraught that he's ever been. I've known him for many years.
Then I said, oh my God. And I asked him, there's anywhere I can be back in about 2 months. And he said, the only thing I have to do is to go away from all the media and stuff.
So, were you able to get away from that? Were you able to relax? How helpful was it to go to St. Kitts? I know it bothered Charlie quite a bit.
Well, when I came to Canada at 14 years old and getting into track and field at a young age, I didn't have any playtime with my friends in the park as a young kid. So the pressure was on me just to get into track, and it was very tough, mentally, physically, emotionally. And I did that, and I spent my whole life training to do one thing, is to win the gold medal in Olympic Games for 12 years. And I would just felt so tired for all the years that I've been training and running and traveling all over the world. I was so exhausted. I got hurt because I think that the body was pushing the limit. I got hurt in single finger in Germany, and I pulled again in Tokyo in May of 1988. And then I came home, and Charlie said, won't you come with us with the team and travel all over Europe, and you're going to get your treatment from Valamar and blah, blah. And I said, Charlie, I'm tired. I cannot lug around my suitcase like this with a one hamstring. And I said, Charlie, I'm going home. I'm exhausted. I went home to my mother, and my mother said, Ben, just take a trip and relax and go to St. Kitts. Not to take drugs, just to relax. And because I was injured, I got on there, meet Jamie, and we start to exchange some words. And he said that he's going to get me back within a few weeks, about 8-9 weeks or so. And I would just enjoy myself for the first time in 12 years, 13 years. I went to the monkey bar, drinking my beer and playing dominoes and going to the ocean and swim like the kids that I normally would do back in Jamaica. So it was good vacation for at least 6, 7, 8 weeks. And Jamie Asafan started to give me some different kind of pills, blue, yellow, red pills, and I just take them because I believe that what it was giving me is just to make my muscles heal. My muscles are healing pain, and so I just take it. And after 6, 7, 8 weeks, my injuries was getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer as the week goes by, because I used to put my hands into it to see how much pain I was feeling, and the pain was going away bit by bit every week. So and then the warm weather and the ocean, and the iodine in the air and the salt water with all the minerals, it's also play a big role in my recovery process. So Charlie didn't really too crazy about me going to down to St. Kitts. He didn't really, but I said, Charlie, I need a break and I need to go.
Well, it turned out to be obviously just what the doctor ordered, as a matter of fact, because in the 100-meter final in 1988, you were clearly ready. And I remember this moment so well. I mean, you could see it in your face, the focus. I mean, here you are ready. The start was absolutely perfect. The acceleration, of course, was off the charts. Tell us what was going through your mind at this point.
The night before the race, I spent take me about 2 hours to meditate on my bed, laying down to meditate about my start, the training, the warm up, the reaction, the acceleration phase, the top speed phase. Everything was planned properly in my mind, because I'm not planned to fail. I came here to win, and I get a very good sleep that night. Even like 3-4 days in the room, I locked myself in the room just meditating about the race, what I'm going to do. And then didn't talk to nobody, not even my mother. Even though I love her so much, I didn't want to talk to my mother. She knew exactly to stay away from me until I come around.
Yeah.
And I just meditate, get everything in my head and say, okay, I lock it in the memory banks, and I say, okay, I'm ready to show the world what Ben Johnson made of to win the gold medal.
Right. Visualization, like perfect, right? You had it all go through your head, the record and everything else, and there you were. An incredible moment in Canadian history, no doubt about it. I remember you carrying that Canadian flag around the track, and uh, what was that moment like for you after you had accomplished what you set out to do?
It was great accomplishment of from a young kid growing up, you know, training, rigorous training for months and years and hours and suffering, pain, sweating. It's really worth it. It was very tough because it's something I love, but I make it look easy. Every time I go on the track, every time I train, every time I leave my house, I would think about my mom. My mom, this is for you, mom. This is for you, and I will. And sometimes I ask myself many times, what am I doing this for? I mean, the pain, there's many times I go home to eat my food, and as soon as I finish eat, I didn't even take a shower to go to bed. I'm exhausted. I just sleep until the next day I shower. Many times that happened to me in my career. So it wasn't easy. It was very tough.
Yeah, a lot of work. My God, all that time, all that work. So uh, after the race, Carl Lewis was interviewed. He almost gave you credit, but he did drop a couple of hints. Let's roll that interview.
I was surprised because this time, I mean, Ben made a tremendous, uh, drop really in 24 hours because, he just wasn't the same person Friday as he was Saturday. And it was just, that race was shocking. I just don't know how he does it or whether he gets a hypnotist or something, but he does something to stimulate him in the final.
Interesting. You used the word stimulate. What was Carl really saying at that point?
Uh, I don't know what this guy was saying. Like, I've been around as long as Carl Lewis. So
Right.
if he win, if he win 4 gold medal back in those days, I mean, I saw the guy wear size 9 shoes and size 12 shoes in 1 year. So I'm not sure what he's talking about. So no, I go into Seoul very clean. Didn't take anything I know of. Yes, I took it 6 weeks, 8 weeks before. A lot of people are speculating that I get caught because the clearance date was not too far out. Uh, I don't think it was the case, and I know that my life was in jeopardy, and I know that what happened to me in Seoul was a foul play, and it wasn't right, and my life, you know, I have to say, Jesus Christ has I've saved my life because my life was in danger. I'm so glad to get out of it alive today to talk about it.
Well, I was really intrigued by the mystery man, Andre Jackson, the guy who was from Carl Lewis's entourage. Mary, how was Andre Jackson allowed to get so close to Ben after the race? So here he is in the testing area, and we got a guy from Carl Lewis's entourage passing Ben some beers to drink so he can become hydrated enough to give a proper urine sample. Like, how does this happen?
Well, what we ended up finding out was Joe Douglas, who is or was Carl Lewis's manager, worked with Andre Jackson, and they, as a group, suspected that Ben was using anabolic steroids. And Joe Douglas said in a previous interview with me, but also in this really great documentary 979 that ran on ESPN's 30 for 30, he said, we got a pass for Andre Jackson, and his job was to go into doping control with this pass and watch Ben Johnson and make sure he didn't do anything funny to, dodge the test or do something, get up to some sort of shenanigans with his urine sample. And he had a camera with him. So his job was to spy on Ben, to make sure Ben didn't do anything to sort of dodge a proper urine sample. So that's what we found out. But at the time, Ben thought he was just talking to some American guy who was, for some reason, in his room and chatting with him and passing him beers. And that's what led Ben to, and maybe he could tell you more about it, but that's what led Ben to, thinking this guy spiked my beer with anabolic steroids, and that's why I tested positive.
He was sort of we called him a mystery man because nobody seemed to know that he was around, but he clearly was. I mean, later there was pictures that indicated he was in the room and everything else. Ben, why was it? What do you think happened? Tell us what you think happened.
Well, he never comes around when Charlie's around. He's always away. He's always away when Charlie's around. He never comes around. When Charlie's not there, he will comes around. When I saw this guy before, and I remember back in 1980, 87, and 86 in Zurich, this guy changed his profile. Sometimes he get hair on his head, or he get bald, or he gain a lot of weight on to change his profile, camouflage himself. So this is what he did, and this is what happened. And I didn't really know that much. My mom's always said, Ben, do not eat or drink anything from nobody going into Olympic Games or anything, because this is the only way they can beat you is to in the lab. And when she told me that, I started getting very, very afraid, frightened of my life, that my life is in jeopardy. And like I said, it was just one of those things that just happened. This moment in Seoul, it was just bigger than me. It was bigger than me than anybody could have expected. And if everybody was in my position, they will understand. And not only that, from what they have put me through for 36 years today, I don't think nobody could survive what mentally, emotionally, and physically put me through all these years, because I did something great. There's a lot of jealousy. There's lots of envious people out there. And yes, I did something that I'm not supposed to do. But at the same time, from what I know and what I believe, that everybody was on the same playing field and everybody was doing what they have to do to win. So I do the same thing too. And the only reason why I'm in this position today, because I do it better, stronger than anybody ever was, and set a record. And mostly again, I don't say this, that I didn't test positive because I was taking steroids. I test positive because of shoes company didn't want Diadora of Italian shoes company to be the number one, and everything happened to me that way.
So, Mary, I want to ask you about the samples, because apparently there was a large amount of stanozolol was found in the samples. It seemed a little bit kind of beyond what you might expect. Is that what you would say?
That was one of the findings after some of the other information came out about what happened in Seoul. And Ben was told, and Charlie was told, and it was reported at the time that the amount of stanozolol metabolites in his urine was extremely high. Now, to test positive for an anabolic steroid, it just has to be in your urine. You can't have an amount. Just any amount is an automatic positive. Unlike stimulants, you can have a little bit of stimulant, like from caffeine or something, in your urine, but you can't have a lot. Like, there's a threshold. So with Ben, and a metabolite is what happens to the anabolic steroid when it goes through your system and is processed. So it's the chemical kind of fingerprint of that. So I can't make much more of it than it was an enormous amount, according to a lot of other experts too. That was sort of unexplained forever. He should have had a very small amount of metabolites in his urine, from what we understand, if his clearance time had been off by a couple of days or something like that. So that's always been a mystery to me and has never really been fully explained. But I can't take it any further than that, then it was an unusual amount in his urine. And the other thing to remember, Joe, is that Ben was the only track and field athlete in Seoul at those Olympics to test positive. There was not another track and field athlete who failed a doping test in Seoul. He was the only one.
Which is ridiculous. I mean,
Defies the
as you
odds.
mentioned,
It defies the odds a
right.
little bit, I would say. But again, no evidence that there was any sort of hanky-panky beyond that. But it just does seem extremely odd for a state-of-the-art lab with a lot of very smart scientists who said, we're going to catch everybody with this new drug they don't know we can detect for, which was donazolol, which is what Ben tested positive for. So I just leave it out there for readers in the book. Like, a lot of things you're going to have to make your own decisions about.
Sure.
These little bits are part of that.
Well, but it is, it is true that, at least 5 other runners in that race tested for something at some point. There were some discrepancies, and Carl Lewis, we found out a decade and a half later, had actually failed 3 drug tests that the U.S. Track and Field Association had tested Carl a few times that summer. He failed 3 times, all swept under the rug. All swept under the rug. I got to ask you
Well,
something, Ben.
sorry, Joe.
Finish that. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Joe. I just want to say that with Carl Lewis's test at the U.S. Olympic trials, I wouldn't say they were swept under the rug. He failed the tests. He appealed, and the U.S. Olympic officials said, it was inadvertent doping, so you're good to go. Don't worry about it. So that's a little bit different than swept under the rug, but I know what you're saying.
Right. Okay. So where were the Canadian officials to say that Ben's findings were mistaken? I mean, why didn't he get the kind of support that the Americans would have provided? And I have to ask you something: if this had been Carl Lewis that had tested positive, would he have lost his medal? Would he have lost his gold medal? What do you think? First, Mary, what do you think?
The Canadian response, very briefly, I think was very meek and mild. They didn't go to the wall for Ben. There were some deficiencies in the hearing that they had. They didn't even look at the evidence against Ben. And Richard Pound was leading the defense, but they did it as a group. And Richard Pound told me many times when we sort of look back on Soul, they said that they trusted the science at the time. They felt it was unassailable and it was not even worth looking at because they thought it was correct. And to me, that was a mistake because later on we did see the documents from Soul, and there were some unsigned handwritten alterations to this document, including an athlete's code being xed out and Ben's being written over top of it. Things that you might have been able to challenge in the moment and say, look, what is with the professional quality of this documentation? Without even saying the testing is wrong. There were other things they probably could have looked at. And also, the Canadians didn't push back when a second test was dropped on them with no disclosure. And it was an unofficial test, but the IOC Olympic panel of anti-doping experts said, like, well, he's also a longtime user. So there's a few things in there, including not really pushing back on the impartiality or lack of impartiality on the panel hearing Ben's defense. So, that I felt were a lot of, it wasn't as rigorous and as full-throated as let's say an American defense might have been at the time. They just sort of rolled over and said, oh my God, you got us. That's my opinion.
Right. What Ben? What do you think? Did you feel like you were supported by the Canadian Track and Field Association, by the Canadian Olympic Committee, by the Canadian government, or did you feel like you were thrown under the bus?
For what happened to me, that they have the lab report and lock it away for 36 years. So what are they hiding? They don't want anybody to know. They want me to dead and gone or create a suicide or mental crazy. This is what they're trying to achieve. But I'm very strong emotionally, mentally. Yes, it was tough at times. Many times it was tough, but I prayed to Jesus Christ and my mother. I said, guide me, get me through this. And when I was down and out, I know Jesus Christ carried me the rest of the way.
You know, Ben, it must have been a really difficult thing for you to go through. Your mother, your family, everybody. You know, it was devastating for me as a Canadian. So pumped up that night. What did it feel like when Charlie Francis knocked on your door and told you you had failed the drug test and you were losing the medal? What did that feel like?
Well, I want to test positive for something that I do, not something that I didn't do. About 7:30 in the morning, knock on the door, open the door, try to look like stunned, like someone died. I said, everything's okay. He goes, you test positive. He walk in, and I said, no. And I sit down on the couch, and I put my hands on my face, and I bump my head down. I say, they finally got me. Just like my mom has said many, many years even before it happened, this is what's going to happen. And it did happen just the way she said it. Because my mom's already said the vision already.
Mm-hmm.
And just like
Your mom,
and
yeah.
just like Jesus Christ gave her the vision 36 years just after they took my medals away, saying that, son, everything's going to be okay. You're going to get back everything that it took from you, but I won't be alive to see it. But you remember that I said so. And it's been 36 years, and I'm able to climb myself out of the hole. They put me into this deep, deep hole. I'm still climbing myself out of it. I'm not out of it yet. Almost there, but I will get there
Right.
in the grace of the Lord. Yep.
I know, Ben, that you've had a spiritual awakening. I know you've talked about that in the book, and so so um, if this book had come out earlier, if all this information had come out earlier, do you think uh, it would be something that maybe people wouldn't accept? Mary, what do you think?
You know, you raised a good point about this book coming out earlier, and part of that is the media's response to what happened in Seoul, and I was part of it. So part of this journey of this
Hmm.
book is my redemption as a reporter, because why wasn't I asking these questions back in the day? So we're getting back to something that it was an open and shut case, it seemed, in Seoul, and Ben complicated matters by 8 months later, the Dublin inquiry, when he was on the stand,
Hmm.
like a lot of athletes were, subpoenaed to testify. Um, he admitted that yes, I was using anabolic steroids. So it all seemed like a sort of really ugly scandal that Canadians wanted to put behind them, and it was closed. So, and we didn't ask enough questions. The book probably could have come out earlier if we'd said, like, I challenge that scientific evidence. What does it
Mm.
mean that the stenozolol metabolites were so high? What actually happened in that hearing room? Like, we didn't really get much into that. And the Dublin inquiry, in many ways, was a really huge overreaction to what happened in Seoul. I mean, it's a massive federal inquiry. I mean, they did a good job, but they also didn't look at the thing I'm writing about right now. Like his hearing and what happened in Seoul was kind of debunked early, and the whole idea of a mystery man that we didn't know the name of the guy for about a year was Andre
Mm.
Jackson and Carl Lewis. So all that stuff was just sort of percolating, and we probably could have pounced on it. So it probably would have made a difference back in the early years. So here we are. I say it's never too late. If it's an historic injustice that is ongoing, and people know or suspect that it's a historic injustice that has been around for 36 years, it's deserving of a review. And not to belabor the point, but we know that is the case, and we know it can happen because right now there's a big crisis with the World Anti-Doping Agency looking at the tests of these 23 Chinese swimmers, and that was
Hmm.
something that, the allegation is that those tests that were positive from about 4 years ago were covered up. So what was WADA's role in all of this? Now there's an independent investigator looking into what happened 4 years ago with a Chinese swimmer. So my point is, now if you can review, and this is why Ben's story has some resonance now. If you can review a case from 4 years ago, why can't you review a case from 36 years ago?
Yeah, and why? Yeah, why is a powerful country like China allow have their athletes that suddenly there's doping results that go missing or whatever else, and it happened with the Russians and another Olympic Games, and you know, and here's this guy from Canada, right? A country that's kind of like Switzerland. We don't argue too much. We're not a big, powerful country. But when the Americans want that gold medal, they seem to get the gold medal and they don't have any problems with that. The Chinese, same thing. And like Ben, what do you think? Do you think if Carl Lewis had won that gold medal, he would have kept it?
Um. Yes or no? I do believe it, and I know this, that mostly of the people on the IRC panel is about 106 members, and it's always big governors and prime ministers and princess and queens and involved in this, and there's a lot of money involved here. So these are the type of aristocrat that these people have on the panel. So when Ben Johnson like this get get in this position here and get shafted, it's nothing new, because we can't let this black boy here come in and get all the glory and all the limelight and make all the money and get rich, and this is what really happened, and this is what really went down. I believe that if Carlos was in my position and I was in Carlos' position, I think that the table will turn around where the America will protect me in his position to keep my gold medal. Can I never have the power to do that, or never understand why to look into this? Always said that they don't miscommand. He's got to be doing something else. Test positive, and then the inquiry, the other inquiry, so I can incriminate myself, and everybody is free, and I get blamed for everybody else what they were doing.
You talked about how, I mean, look at this. I can't imagine the type of stress that you went under. That what your mom was going through, what your family, everybody was going through when all this came down. I can't imagine. And I know for a period of time you didn't handle it very well. You talk about in the book about how your drinking was getting out of control. I can relate to this. I've been sober a number of years myself now because of stuff that happened in my past. But tell us about, how bad did it get for you? How bad was it?
It was really bad. I mean, my family was going through a lot. My sisters, my niece, my nephews were going through a lot. See the uncle going through this position. Even my mother helped me as a baby. Nurse me back to health and be with her for so many years
Mm,
and get where I want to be in my life, win the gold medal, and then have uh, this thing happen to me. Knowing what she's know and knowing what's going on, it was sad for her to see this thing happen.
right. And yourself, I mean, you lost your mother, you lost your father, and things got pretty bad for you. But and you mentioned in the book that you got sober, you changed your life, and how has that affected you? What kind of effect has that change had on you?
Well, it affect me in a lot of way. It's a lot of thing that I still have a name, and I make most of my money in Japan. I go to Japan and do a lot of reality shows. I go to Europe, do a lot of appearances. So I see keep making a little bit of income now and then, stuff like that. But it was really tough. But like I said, the Lord carried me through here and carried me this far, and He's not gonna leave me now. So I do believe that everything is gonna turn around in a very short time and so forth. So it was just a blessing, and I don't want to leave this world knowing that people see me a different way. They want to see me the person I am, and what really happened to me, and what really went down. And I'm not only was the guilty one behind this, but the system that that put me in this position, for to speak.
Well, and Charlie Francis went to his grave believing that you were framed in soul. After reading this book, I believe I'm leaning to that way as well. You know, everyone was on something. It seemed like you did what, in my opinion, what almost anybody in your position would have done. Ask any athlete who's on the precipice of Olympic gold, world championships. Will they take something if they can get away with? Of course. I mean, almost who wouldn't? Who would almost nobody would say no to that. But I suppose there is that moral dilemma, right? So, in my opinion, though, you were singled out here. You're the scapegoat, as Mary points out in the book. Denied due process again and again. Um, you know, your 979, in my opinion, should have stood up. Your Olympic gold medal should be returned. Uh, I believe that Canadian track and field, Canadian government, Canadian Olympic Committee, ILC, they all dropped the ball with this, and you know, um, it's funny because you recently posted a picture of you on Facebook with Charlie's brother Barry. Do you think Charlie would have liked this book?
Is it Mary or for me?
You, you, Ben.
Okay.
You posted
I,
you
I
posted a picture
I
of you
I
on
think
Facebook
I think I think
with
I
Charlie's
think
brother
Charlie
Barry.
I think Charlie in the spirit know what's going on, and knowingly that I'm the only one left who can get this thing done, and we'll get this thing done, even if it costs my life, what I believe in and what's been going on, I will do it. And to make sure that our name, it doesn't go in vain. Our name will still call that Charlie Francis is the greatest coach ever lived for all time. And also Ben Johnson is the greatest sprinter ever run on the middle track. And all those sprinters right now is running. They're learning from Ben Johnson, Charlie Francis um, program that they're running right now. But they don't want to tell the world that.
When you look back, Ben, if you had to do it all over again, would you change a thing,
Well,
or
if
what would you
this is
change?
my destiny, if my destiny is to do what I do or whatever it is, that's the way it's supposed to be. I can't change my destiny.
Right. Do you feel vindicated by the book? Do you feel vindicated by the book?
I feel like a lot of people really doesn't know the answers. There got to be some truth about it. Now they have the truth. Now they can read the book and come to a conclusion about it.
Mary, are you pleased with what you did here with your work?
Well, yes, I just felt that, as I said, that this was a story that wasn't done properly back in the day, and I can't speak about all media. I'm talking more about myself, but in general, we didn't do a good job. And to get back to the point of what this isn't really about vindicating Ben so much as it is looking at, was he treated fairly in Seoul? Because a lot of stuff obviously came from that, because he ended up, destroying his life, his reputation, which he's trying to get back, and he'd made millions and lost millions through what happened in Seoul. So I'm hoping that if we're able to outline everything with the documentation and paper trail and opinions and interviews with people, say, you know, why was he not properly treated at the time? Why was his defense so deficient? Why did we not jump on that a lot earlier? So I'm hoping that people can read that and get a better understanding of Ben and themselves, as you know, they can make up their own minds about what's been presented in the book. And one of the other sort of focuses I'd hoped to do was make this a bit of a character study in many ways, because he'd been, uh, as a fallen athlete, Ben had been sort of described as a cartoon character, a shallow villain, and he's obviously a normal guy, a human being with feelings, gone through a really, really tough time. He did have a second positive test, but an arbitrator got involved in that, and there's another whole story about that second test, that he was provisionally reinstated because of an arbitrator's decision that a lot of things again didn't go well for him when he was found to have a testosterone
Hmm.
ratio fraction in 1993. So all these
Right.
things are in people to revisit, have a look at, and then can you, make a decision as a reader as to, does this guy get a fair shot or not?
Yeah, and it's good. It's good. I mean, you can read the book, and I think to make that determination. And you're talking about, yeah, the judge in Ontario who denied a due process once again. So, um, okay, so uh, yeah, I want to talk a little bit, Ben. I want to ask you about the choice of the defense that you used in the Dublin inquiry. Your lawyer Ed Fuderman and I asked you to uh, kind of play the dummy, that you were duped into this. In retrospect, was that a mistake?
I think that was a mistake by Fooderman's part and Camille, who was a manager. I think these guys didn't know anything about sports or track and field and the politics that was played, or the I would say the politics that was played to indicate Ben Johnson at the Dublin inquiry. And I think at the Dublin inquiry, I think Kennedy wanted to distance himself away from me, which is
Mm.
fine by me. But at the same time, they do so many wrong things uh, about the media, about who the guy I was and or body was, and he's a liar and stuff like that. But I think the Dublin inquiry was just to distance themselves from Ben Johnson, trying to make it so they're clean. But I don't really care. I think Canada should trying to protect their athletes more than ever than the American does. I mean, when you have American athletes competing for Canada, they worship the American athletes, but they don't worship they their own athletes, and that's what I, I feel so shame about, that they don't try to protect the guy who run for this country and give the shot, and then there's throw him under the bus. I mean, that's not fair, but that's what it is. It happened.
Hmm.
It's done with.
There you go. There you go. So, okay, final question for both of you. First, you, Ben. What's the best advice you've ever received? It's a question that I ask all my guests on the program. What's the best advice you ever received?
The best advice in my life.
Hmm.
Oh boy, that's a tough one. uh, oh man, you catch me there.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay.
The
If
best
you were.
advice advocate, well, of me leaving Jamaica, coming to Canada. I think that was a turning point of my destiny to meet Charlie Francis, to get to know him, to train with him, and to be the best that we can be together and become a unit, and we work very good together. I missed him dearly. I think about him dearly in my mind, and I missed him. And I know that he's in a better place and he's looking on, and he's not here. And all my teammates is here still. Some is passed away and some is still here, but I'm the only one can turn this thing around, because this is only happened to me. So I'm gonna make sure that this thing's turn around, and then Charlie can look on and smile and see in the spirit, and that's what I believe.
Yeah, Ben, we're glad you came to Canada too. You've given us a lot of thrills over the years. Mary, same question. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Well, my father was a Metro Toronto police officer for 34 years, and I had no way around this, but this was the greatest advice, was always tell the truth. I mean,
Hmm.
even if it's going to hurt you and cause some bad things to happen, you have to tell the truth. So I have to say that was probably the best advice, and perhaps I didn't always follow it as a kid, but I try to I try to stick to that when I can.
The truth shall set you free. Okay, so once again, the book is World's Fastest Man: The Incredible Life of Ben Johnson. Amazing book. Good luck. You know what? I hope this book becomes a movie. What a movie that would be. That
Mm.
would be. Uh, Ben, Mary, I want to thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time. Uh, Ben, I know that we lost a little bit of light there, but I can still see you. And thank you for taking this time to join us. And
I guess
yeah,
I'm too dark.
yeah, 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 yeah. I can see it. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, thank you for doing this, guys. I appreciate this, and thank you
Thank you,
for
Joe.
writing this book, Mary. It's
Thank you,
great.
Oh,
thank you.
Joe, thank you very much.
All right, more sports when we come back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Rely on Walton Restoration's 40 plus years of excellence in residential and commercial restoration. Their strong reputation is built on workmanship, professionalism, and outstanding customer service. Trust Walton as your dependable partner in emergencies, serving Durham, Kawartha, and Northumberland regions. Call 905-725-5666 or visit waltonrestoration.com. Experience top-tier workmanship and service. Walton Restoration, the trusted name in property restoration. Join satisfied customers like me.
Addiction Rehab Toronto,
Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca.
And we want to thank all the folks who make this show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all around great people. We highly recommend them all. Thank you for your support of Canadian and local sports. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcast, and Pocket Cast, as well as the Spanglish Network, Buzz TV Live, and Zingo TV. Also, check out past shows on YouTube. All of our great past shows are there, as well as some shorts. Like and subscribe. It's absolutely, completely, positively free. Thanks once again to Ben Johnson and Mary Ormsby for being on the program. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in the early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more. Rooted in 60 years of tradition, Sleepy Hollow is a private golf club with a friendly community of members just minutes from Toronto. With mature trees and rolling fairways, Sleepy Hollow provides a challenging and enjoyable experience for passionate golfers. Enjoy great golf, amazing dining, and a picturesque patio second to none. Visit sleepyhollowcountryclub.com. Joe Tilley here. My wife Penny Claire and I recently took an amazing trip to Egypt and Jordan with Trip Oppo. And here are our top 10 must-dos. Number 8, the Rose Red City of Petra, Jordan, and a stay in a unique cave hotel. Visiting Petra was like stepping into a different world, a place where ancient architecture and natural beauty come together to create something truly spectacular. As I wandered through the narrow canyons and towering cliffs that surrounded the city, I felt like I was on an adventure in a hidden world, uncovering secrets and marvels at every turn. And the Cave Hotel was the perfect place to stay, like staying in a secret hideaway with cozy rooms carved right into the rock and breathtaking views of the surrounding landscape. I would highly recommend that you book your next trip through Trip Oppo. Call them today. Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com.